Mead? Seriously? Okay, American people know about beer. Cider is also not surprising. But mead? In Europe or in Russia, I wouldn't be surprised if I was offered to try alcohol honey. But what about here, on the east coast of America? Ipswich, a small coastal town about an hour north of Boston. Small Meadery 1634, which I accidentally stumbled across on the internet when I was looking for a topic for the first release of this show. Unusual? And this is exactly what I need. Okay, let's find out. Okay guys, so 2 minutes from downtown and we've reached this 1634 Meadery. Let's take a look. Let's go inside. Nice smell. Today our guest is Clapp, founder and owner of Meadery 1634. So hi Dan.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thanks for coming.
Can you talk about your Meadery? We want to know the history of foundation of this place.
Yeah, so we opened the Meadery up about 3.5 years ago. I had learned about mead actually on a trip to Denmark dating back to about 2004. So going on 15 years now. I actually picked up a bottle of mead over in Denmark. And this is my first bottle of mead I ever had. Eventually opened it at a dinner table and said, hey, this stuff's pretty good. What is this stuff? And I started researching mead and seeing what it was, and I saw that it was fermented honey, and said, well, I can make that. I was a home beer brewer, and so I started making mead. People started saying, hey, this stuff's pretty good. My friends and neighbors would always have this stuff at the parties and stuff like that.
Who was first who tried? Yeah.
My wife, my wife and myself. And my wife didn't like any of my early stuff. She would, I'd bring her a sample of my batch and she'd smell it and she'd tell me, or yeah, that smells pretty good. Exactly. Total process from start to finish from the commercial point of view is about 6 months or so. The time in the fermenter is usually between 3 and 5 weeks, depending on whether you're going to add fruit into the fermenter. And then what we do is we take the mead and we move it into our aging barrels after about a month, and that's where it's going to sit for 5 more months or more. So over time, mead becomes more integrated with flavors, smoother. You can compare it to aging like a red wine. It just becomes better, and the more patience you have with mead, the better.
And what honey do you use for your product? What honey?
What honey? So we really strive to use locally sourced honey. We have, so most of our meads use what's called wildflower honey, which is, wildflower honey is just a generic term for honey that you don't really know the source of the nectar and pollen that's used to make it. So if you just put a beehive in your backyard and the bees fly off wherever and make their honey, that's going to be called wildflower honey.
And how many flavors do you have?
Well, actually on the top shelf here you can see all the flavors we've made in the 3.5 years we've been open, which is up to 22 now. So it's called a manual floor corker, so we're going to go ahead and cork a bottle here. Here we go. So now the cork is inside there. It starts swelling back to its natural state. You can see actually it's squeezing a little bit of air out of there as we talk. So that's going to eventually get to its right size, where it's going to seal it up. It's going to keep the mead inside here and prevent oxygen from getting inside of it.
So how many times a day do you do this?
We try and do a bottling run about once every week and a half, where we do about 600 bottles. Yeah. So
you're a strong man.
It keeps us busy. We can spin the labels on here. Go. So we wanted an old look and feel to our bottles. So we have a kind of a apothecary look, something you might have pulled off the shelf 100 years ago or something like that. Is a pull tab to remove the wax and prepare it for dipping. There we go. So it looks a little bit like a ribbon. And then now we're going to hand dip. Every one of these gets hand dipped.
Can I try it?
Oh, sure. Yep.
I'm gonna put it down to this level, right?
Yep.
And just twist.
Perfect. Yep. You can come all the way out.
All the way out.
And now what you want to do is angle it just a little bit. You want to just throw out like that. Yep. And then just be patient and watch until it's almost done dripping. Right. Perfect. Look at that. There's kind of a mead revolution going on in the United States right now. It's gone from about 60 meaderies to over 380 in about 6 years. First one we're going to try is called a sizer. This is the driest mead I make. It's made with apple cider and honey fermented together. So you take fresh pressed cider, sweeten it up with honey, and then add that yeast in there and then do the fermentation. A traditional style mead. A traditional mead is one that just is the honey. It's either called a show mead or a traditional. You call it a show mead when you're showing off the characteristics of the honey. So we had talked about the varietal honeys that you can use. This is a clover honey. And it's going to have its own flavor profiles than if you change to a different type of honey. So honey, water, yeast, that's all that's in that one. So it's just your basic mead recipe. And as you see,
it's more not like wine, but more I don't know, like liquor.
Yeah, some people get more feeling of an aperitif, you know,
Yes.
after dinner type thing. And you're getting a little bit. It's not super sweet, but it has more of the honey flavor come through, right? So. Yep. We happen to have a peach mead out, which is actually made with, we just bottled it, so we have an unlabeled bottle here, but this is a peach vanilla. So this one actually is a combination of a spiced and a fruit mead. This one, a lot of people get that vanilla flavor and they think dessert with cake or you know, cheesecake, that type of thing.
Interesting combination. Smells pretty good.
So when you get that sweetness, now you're starting to think, oh, this is definitely an aperitif, right? This is more a dessert line. So we have 1 or 2 meads that we release seasonally. One is our cranberry mead, and that's the next one you're going to have. So this is again locally sourced. We have actually, I'll bring this one up because it's this is one of my favorite labels. I think it's a very fun.
It's a very creative name.
Creative name. Cranberry is actually the original name for cranberries around this area. The Pilgrims came across and they actually named it cranberry because the bloom of the cranberry, when it drapes over, looks like the head of a sandhill crane, and so they called it cranberry, and that's what you have a picture of on the front of the label. So we're gonna try this one. This is a tart, sweet mead. This one is a great pairing, dinner pairing. In fact, this is perfect for Thanksgiving dinner because of that tartness. You have a little bit of bite to it. What we were going for in this one is that sweet tart combination. You're a pretty impressive mead drinker. You really shoot that down pretty fast. It must be that.
I really like the cranberry. And another thing you didn't taste is the raspberry. Love the raspberry. And I'm also very partial to strawberry rhubarb, which they have right now too.
Strawberry fields.
Very good stuff.
So I'm feeling pretty good after tasting. How do people feeling after tasting? Do they require to dance after that?
You're welcome to dance. We like to think that you're happier when you leave the meadery than when you came here. Get a bottle and take it home.
And I see that for safe operation, so you have 2 bodyguards here.
Yep.
Fierce.
So as a result of visiting this small, cozy meadery in Ipswich, I'm leaving with a bunch of bottles. So guys, it's very good product and you have to taste it.
To be honest, I was pleasantly surprised that this drink is more like wine than beer. In my opinion, this is a great alternative to wine. Different meals, different meats, no problem. Dan has more than 20 flavors of it. That is delicious. Cheers!